Welcome to the Divorce Podcast, where we explore all aspects of ending relationships, separation, and parenting apart. If your marriage or partnership has ended, or you have friends and family who are separating, this podcast is for you. I'm Kate Daly, a relationship counsellor, divorce specialist, and co-founder of Amicable, the online legal service for separating couples. In each episode, we look at relationships and separation from different angles, including the emotional, legal, and social. I'm joined by experts and special guests who share their own unique stories, experience, and tips, with the goal of helping people end relationships in a kinder and better way. In this episode, I'm joined by Cathy Eads, a certified yoga teacher, to explore how yoga can support you through your divorce journey. We start with Cathy's own separation story and how it led her to train as a yoga teacher. We talk about self-care through simple practices like walking and breathwork, and how scientifically yoga can help you respond rather than react during stressful moments. We also touch on mindfulness as a powerful way to find calm and stay present. Stay with us until the end for a short, grounding breathwork exercise you can use whenever you need it. If you loved this episode, then please subscribe and rate us on your preferred listening platform. Welcome, Cathy.
Thank you, Kate. I'm so glad to be here with you.
Well, it's lovely to see you. Thank you for joining me. I'm excited to find out more about how yoga principles can help steady us if we're going through a divorce or separation process. But before we get on to that, why don't you start by giving us a little bit of background about your own experience and share your divorce journey with us?
Sure. I was married for 29 years to my high school sweetheart, actually. But we married young, right out of college. And as I can now look back with more neutral eyes, it was not a very healthy relationship from early on, although we did make it work for quite some time. And then it got to the point where it really was not healthy for either one of us. And it was also a struggle as many divorces are, it was a struggle to pull apart what we'd been working so hard to try to hold together. So, as many people well know, that whole process was very painful, very uncomfortable. I found that my former spouse didn't really value my contribution as a full partner in the midst of that process, when he suggested that he should receive 70% of all of the assets that we shared, which was very shocking and very disappointing and very hurtful, really, to know that the what I thought was devaluation during the relationship, that confirmed it for me. So, and the fact that at some point he did say, like, your contribution has been mostly negative. And my mouth fell open because I raised 3 children. I helped him to start a business. I mean, it was just really kind of like, okay, well, you know where you stand. I had been a student of yoga for over 20 years at that point, but I only looked at it as a physical exercise. And it was in the middle of our separation and divorce that I went to a yoga teacher training. I'd never, ever thought I wanted to do that before. And I just thought, I'm opening a new part of my life and I need to figure out what's what. And I don't know why, but I'm feeling drawn to this right now. So I'm just going to go with it. And that actually really helped the healing that needed to happen for me, because it brought me to the teachings of yoga that are all about taking care of yourself and what's going on in not just your body, but your mind, your emotions, your spirit, and knowing that they're all so closely linked. You can't suffer in one area and it not affect the others. And when you support and nurture one area, it also supports and nurtures the others. So that is how I came to be a yoga teacher. And then I stepped into the Ayurveda training because yoga and Ayurveda are very closely related. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, I can bring in the aspects of very specific individual characteristics and needs for my clients and what's going on in their life and how to address that using these different tools. So that's kind of how I came to be in this position. And I use all the things that I do with my clients myself to help me to continue to heal and move forward.
It's incredible, isn't it? Because the idea that you could find that space to pursue that calling, because it feels like a calling from how you're describing it. It's just amazing to me because that time is so turbulent. Having, I've been through a high conflict divorce myself. It's turbulent. I felt completely, devoid of any ability to look beyond the here and now. So, and it took me a good couple of years after that divorce to come back to work and to set up amicable and to start doing the things that I did. But for you, it seems like it was happening all at the same time. How did you find that mental space to realize that this was something you wanted to pursue?
I won't say that I was steady during the whole process, because I also like to share that with clients too. Like, these things don't make the pain or the uncertainty or the anxiety, they don't make it go away. They give you some tools to help you soothe yourself and calm yourself and come back from being up here and ground yourself. So rumination and anxiety and fear, all the emotions, I had them in the middle of all this. And I am a few years outside of it now. So I'm much more grounded now, even than when I was going through all of this. But I think my attitude was, my life is not working out at all the way I thought it was going to. So I have to try so many new different things. Something in the universe is pulling me to go do this thing I've never wanted to do before. Why not? It can't possibly hurt. It's probably going to be a good thing. I'm going to meet new people. I just was opening my life up to possibility. And like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know that I can take control of a lot of things, especially myself and my well-being. And this can only help me. It can't possibly hurt.
I was guesting on another podcast and we were talking about this idea that, you're in survival mode, but sometimes when you go through a divorce, you get stuck in survival mode. And like 2-3 years later, you're still acting like you're in survival mode and you haven't made that mental shift to like creating, as you said, the self-care habits or the new routines that are about your new life and building your new life and being who you are. And I've seen it so many times. People get stuck because you get used to that fight or flight, adrenaline fueled kind of existence. And I know from my own experience, I did that for years before actually getting to a point where I walk every morning and because I want to get that early sunlight and that kind of stuff. And I have little things that I always do for myself, very small things, and particularly if I'm working at home around lunchtime, nice little things I do just to break my day up and to reinvest in myself so I can be my best self throughout the day. Because it's like it's stamina. And as you get older and you hit menopause and everything else, you're so depleted by so many things, everything coming at you. And usually your family life has become complex. I've got old parents and I've got teenage kids and, it's a lot to cope with. So I get this whole idea of you need your own oxygen mask on if you're going to support all of the rest of your family and everybody else. Could you give us maybe a practical self-care tip then? You've talked about going for a walk in the morning, which is a lovely one. Well, lovely to me because I like doing that. But what about if people are struggling with that kind of motivation and lack of energy? Is there something that you could share with us that might help people listening that are feeling in that way?
Yeah, I really do. I do believe that moving your body in a way that is nurturing for you is huge. And it can be as simple as a walk. It can be some morning stretches. There are people who love to take a run. That's not me, but I do know there are people that love that. So it also brings your attention like back into your physical body, because so much of this process of separation and divorce and co-parenting, there's so much mental effort that has to go into all of that. And the emotional stuff can come up in our thoughts and start ruminating. So we need to bring our awareness back into our physical body. And that movement is one way to do that, mindful movement. So it's trying to, like, even if you're just thinking of, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out, or I'm putting my right foot down, I'm putting my left foot down. If you're walking, you're just bringing the attention away from those other things that are trying to eat up your energy and bringing it back into the physical sensations that you're feeling. And it gives the mind a little reset. And not only, it also helps your circulation. So that helps your energy. So it's so many beneficial effects to that. And, I use breath work is so simple. It's free. It takes no tools. You can do it sitting in traffic or at an appointment or in a meeting or before you go into a contentious, kind of situation maybe that you see coming or you might expect with your former partner. Those kinds of things. Breath work is so, so useful there because it, again, brings your mind away from the other stuff. And it also cues your parasympathetic nervous system that you are safe. Because what I didn't realize for many years is that any sort of danger that you feel physically or you anticipate, your body and mind don't really notice the difference between a near car accident or dropping a glass on the floor and spilling something if that breaks the glass, or a saber-toothed tiger. It's all fear. And it all sends our body into that fight, flight, freeze, fawn type of thing. But with our breath, we can say, hey, it's okay. I'm in control. I am safe. We're good here. And I'm in control of the situation. And that's a good reminder to ourselves. You are in control of yourself. You might not be in control of everybody else, but you are very much in control of yourself and your emotions.
Yeah. And I think that whole idea that you can control your response to something is really powerful, isn't it? Because I know a lot of the time when you're in a high conflict divorce or separation scenario, the worst feeling is you feel you just can't control the other person. They're being unreasonable. They're doing or saying things that are harmful or hurtful. And you just feel in that endless loop of, how can I stop this? How can I control this? And actually just letting yourself free fall into the fact that you can't, but you can always control how you respond or choose not to respond very often. That's the power. And it feels like the yoga is a way of accessing those thoughts and feelings and that volition to me.
I just wanted to add one thing because I like to share that I'm in a good place now where I used to not be. I've made progress. I don't want people to think, oh, she's always been chill and calm. I was a very reactive person. I could be triggered like that. And I think especially when we're with it's a former spouse and there's so much emotional fraught stuff around that person can trigger us in ways that other people cannot. It doesn't make the trigger not occur. The trigger can still be there, but it's our response to it. It's a response instead of a reaction. There's this pause that doing these practices helps you to maintain that pause of, oh, I'm observing what's happening. I'm observing how it's making me feel inside. And now I'm going to choose what to do with that instead of trigger, react, which takes no thought. It just happens.
Yeah. And I think even when you slip into that bit where you have reacted, I think with this way of breathing and thinking and the exercising, you also have an ability to shorten the impact of that reaction as well over time. So even if you can't get to the point at this time in your sort of journey where you can just not react, because that's quite a high bar, I think you can still make progress by your reaction being shortened and less impactful. And that's a great thing, isn't it? Ultimately, if you know that something would have upset you for a week or whatever, and now it only does it for a day or 2 days, you are quids in at this point, aren't you? And that's a good feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's progression, but it's also not linear progression. I mean, we all have these ups and downs. And I think that's really important to remember that, if we're tired or hungry or we're having a bad day, we're not going to have quite as much self-control sometimes. But as you said, it's easier to have the self-awareness of oh, wait, I'm falling into that old pattern. Let me step back here. Let's try this again. So
now you run yoga classes for people who are specifically going through divorce or separation. What makes them different to a normal yoga class? What does it mean to be part of your divorce and separation yoga?
Well, I always, because of the nature of a separation or divorce, that is, as I said, it's a seismic shift. So that there's a lot of what we say in the Ayurveda terminology, or there's a lot of vata energy, shifting, moving, fluid, like a lot of emotions up here. There's a lot of stuff that's high and airy and mobile. That's what vata qualities are. And so a grounding yoga practice that is more focused on centering the body. It is a gentle strengthening. So it's a slower pace, and it's really focused on moving with your breath. So when we expand the body, we inhale, and when we contract the body, we exhale. And so there's a lot of cueing about the breath to keep your mind in your body and on your breath. And there's a lot of grounding poses. So it's not going to be fast paced. You're not going to like be dripping with sweat. We're not going to try to up your energy because that's already happening in your life. We're going to try to ground you and help you to feel very calm and centered in this practice. So that is going to be the difference. And the fact that I bring an Ayurvedic perspective to it, you don't get that at a lot of studios because a lot of yoga teachers have a teeny tiny little unit on Ayurveda in their training, but I've done a whole training just on Ayurveda and Ayurvedic wellness.
Do you want to maybe just explain just briefly what the sort of principles of Ayurvedic training are?
Sure. Ayurveda is it's a very, very old system rooted in the traditions of India. It is sometimes called the sister science of yoga, and yoga is a part of Ayurveda. And it is focused on natural health and well-being and setting the foundations for that through your self-care routines, your dietary choices, your daily habits, your sleep, and your sleep hygiene. And also we take a look at like your whole life story because everybody is a unique individual. So that's one of my favorite things about Ayurveda is that when you're working with an Ayurvedic practitioner, your protocols are unique to you as an individual human being. So we take into consideration everything that's going on physically, mentally, emotionally, and build your protocols, your self-care routines, your dietary recommendations around what you need right now. And it can shift as your life shifts because our bodies and our lives are ever changing. So as we strengthen our bodies and minds and spirits and we build this foundation, those protocols can shift as we age also. So all of those things are taken into consideration.
And so I guess divorce and separation is a huge shift, isn't it? And there are different phases within it. So it feels like it lends itself beautifully to being able to support somebody as they kind of navigate that very bumpy journey of relationship breakdown.
Yeah, it's a very unbalanced process. And a big piece of Ayurveda is using all these things to create balance, just to keep working at bringing balance and harmony into your life. So yeah, it's a time when you really have to work hard on that, I think.
Yeah.
Divorce is
Divorce and separation feels like the least balanced time of one's life, doesn't it? So yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the mindfulness approach then. So yoga, mindfulness, Pilates, all of these different activities, they can get quite sort of mixed up with each other, can't they? So just tell us a little bit about the techniques from yoga that really speak to that mindfulness piece that people might already be doing in other aspects of their life or work. What can people use from mindfulness that's going to help during this time, do you think?
Well, these practices, yoga, breathwork, meditation, or guided relaxation, which is also referred to in the yoga world as yoga nidra, all of them help to calm the fluctuations of the mind. And so the racing thoughts or anxious feelings, all of these things they're modulated when you are using these practices. And while I tell people use breath work when you're feeling really worked up, but it's great to use it on a normal day when you feel just fine, because it's almost like going to practice if you play an instrument or a sport or something like you go to practice on a regular basis so that you can keep your skills up. And then when the tournament comes or the concert, you are ready. And that's the same type of thing with these practices. You do them on a regular basis. and they're strengthening your inner calm. I call it the unshakable calm is what I like to say, but that resolve within you so that you can move forward with confidence, and also helps when things do trigger you, like you were saying, Kate, that it helps you just modulate that response and contain the reaction and to calm yourself more. I keep coming back to the word calm, but it calms the nervous system, it calms the physical bodily systems, and then it calms our emotional reactions to things. So all of these mindfulness practices kind of sometimes seem like you're not doing that much. I mean, it's slow movement, it's controlled breathing. Meditation looks like there's not much going on there, but that's kind of the point. We are constantly going, thinking, doing throughout years and decades of our lives. And we often do not allow these periods of relaxation, rest, and inner focus. And the more that we do that, the more we can show up as our best selves in our outer world. I think that's what it comes down to. We want to show up well for our kids. We want to show up as our best self in this process of a divorce. When it's over, you want to be able to look back and say, for the most part, yeah, I think I showed up in a pretty decent way and I kept my integrity. And those things are easier to do when you use these practices.
And I think from what you're saying as well, I think in the world we live in, increasingly, there is going to be a premium placed on the ability to still minds, feel boredom, and all of those, all the things that were just like not very sexy in the 1980s and 90s when we were growing up, but now seem to have a real cachet. And I often say to my kids, you've got no idea what it is to be bored. And they're just like, no. What was it like when you were a kid? It's like, there's a lot of boredom. You had to cope with a lot of things. But I guess that was protecting our well-being in our brains. And that's, by making these practices and doing these things. I think the other thing we're doing is modeling to our kids and the people around us that this is a helpful, useful process and a habit that can really serve us. And that seems invaluable.
Yeah. And that you made a really good point. The one regret I have around this is that I didn't find these practices and have them in my toolbox and have a better grasp of them when my children were younger, because by the time I was going through my divorce, my children were all young adults. And I look back now and I'm like, I would have been a more patient mother. I would have been.
No, that's same with me. I think that, if I knew I'd been a bit more patient, and I hadn't yelled all the time.
Yeah. But I also think now that I have them, at least I'm able to, through my life now, demonstrate for them like, hey, I lived in this other way. It's not very good. I wouldn't recommend it for you. Pace yourself and find the things that will bring you the calm and the inner strength instead of just feeling like you have to be go, go, go all the time. Because I did that. I did that whole type A thing and it is unhealthy. And I have an autoimmune condition I have to manage now. And I think that part of the stress of an unhealthy relationship, as well as my inability to recognize my need for self-care and, just going to a yoga class is not cutting it. Just doing a yoga practice 3 times a week. If you're just doing the physical part, it's not bad for you. There's so much more to it if you get into the more spiritual side of things. And I say that, I don't want people to think of it as a religious thing, because it's not. We all have a spiritual being, even if we're not real in tune with it. But we can get to be attuned with it. And it really does help to manage all of these other aspects of our life if we're really in tune with ourselves.
Well, whether you call it spirituality or mindfulness or, mental discipline, whatever it is, I think the point you're making is really clear, that it's something that it's a tool if you're going through something like this that you can deploy and that will help you and the wider family as well. So thank you for that. In just a moment, I'm going to ask Cathy to share her top tips to help steady you if you are in the middle of a separation or divorce and you're feeling that sense of overwhelm. And I know you wouldn't want to miss these tips. But before that, if this episode has given you even the slightest bit of clarity or comfort, or just a tip that's made you feel things are more manageable or a little bit better, then please make sure to follow the Divorce Podcast on your favorite podcast app. Each week, we're here with expert advice, real support to help you through your separation one step at a time. Okay, Cathy, so final tips. If there is someone listening and they're right at the beginning of their separation, feeling that sense of overwhelm, what's the one piece of gentle advice you'd give them to steady themselves?
I tend to go back. I like to go to something quick and easy. There are so many things that you can do, but I like to go back to the breath work because you can pull it out of your back pocket, no matter the circumstances of your situation. And it's going to help on all the different levels, your physical body, calming you, calming your emotions, and steadying your mind, because sometimes you're going to need to make a logical, rational decision in a difficult situation. And so you want to be able to sort of bring that logical mind back on board instead of reacting from an emotional place. So the easiest thing you can do is, especially if you're in a place where you can step away from everyone else and just go into the bathroom stall or something like that, close your eyes, place a hand on your chest and one on your belly. That's great. And I recommend that. If you're in the middle of a meeting and you can't do this, then you can do it sitting in front of someone with your eyes open. But I encourage you to close the eyes and just start to feel the rise and fall of your chest and your belly as you breathe. So first, we just want to feel the sensations, feeling the expansion on the inhale and feeling the gentle contraction on the exhale. And then from there, we want to start to count the inhale. I like to start with a count of 6 on the inhale. And then we're going to extend the exhale just a couple seconds longer. So count to 8 on the exhale. And then continue to do that. So extend in the exhale. If you can make it all the way to 9 or 10, that's even better. Because what's happening as you extend the exhale, you're cueing your parasympathetic nervous system that you're safe, that everything's okay, and that you are in control of the situation. And you're giving the body that space it needs to calm. You're also going to be slowing that pulse rate just a bit with this breathing pattern. And you're going to be steadying your mind as well. So all of these things are happening at the same time simply by counting in to 6 on the inhale and counting out to 8 or maybe 10 if you can do that on the exhale. And then when you feel ready, you can open the eyes, remove the hands, and just notice if there's been any sort of shift. If you feel a little more grounded, if you still are feeling kind of agitated, you can go right back into this for a few more moments. We did it pretty quickly, but that would be my main tip for in the moment. If you're in the middle of a meeting, you can do this breathing pattern without anybody really noticing. You will be fully aware because you're already kind of in the heightened awareness, but the people around you aren't going to notice. It can be really helpful.
Oh, that was wonderful. Thank you very much for guiding us through that. I really enjoyed that. It was great. Where can people find out more about you, Cathy, if they want to follow you, look up some of these techniques?
Yes. Well, if they'd like, I have an audio recording of that guided breathing, and it is on my main website, and the address is findblissyoga.com/60, the number 60, second slayer, because I call that the 60-second stress slayer, which is a mouthful. So findblissyoga.com/60 slayer. And then my yogaforddivorce.com is a separate website, but it is completely focused on the work that I do with people going through separation and divorce. So that is another spot where they can find specifically about that type of work that I do.
And it's, it's interesting to say as well, isn't it? There's a lot more men taking up yoga these days as well. So it's men and women who can use some of these techniques, and they're completely gender neutral, the techniques. You don't have to be anything, do you, to be able to benefit from exactly that, from calming the mind and calming the body. So thank you very much indeed for that. So we'll put all of those links in the show notes as well, folks. So if you want to find out more about Cathy, or as she says, download her stress layer technique, then that will all go in the show notes for you. And don't forget, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can hear about new podcast episodes by subscribing for updates and visiting thedivorcepodcast.com on your favorite listening platform. Finally, we'd love to know how we can help. If there are people you'd like to hear on the podcast or things you'd like us to explore, please get in touch. You can use us. You can use the email address hello@amicable.co.uk or DM us in any of the social media platforms that we're on. They might form the basis of the next episode, so please, we look forward to hearing from you. Thanks ever so much, Cathy. It's been a real treat and a joy to talk to you today. I really appreciate your time. And thank you, everybody, for listening.